So for those, so Kathy, I just want to point out there is 2 links on the first slide. The Getting Started handout is one that's created by Raz Plus. It's really helpful if you're looking just for a quick start guide. And then people are able to get PDPs for this training if they fill out the form at the end. And that includes people who are watching the recording. All right, so one thing that was really confusing to me when I first started using this new tool is what's the difference between Learning A to Z, Raz Plus, and Raz Kids? I kept hearing these terms thrown around. And so the short answer is that Learning A to Z is the company, and they have lots of products, one of which is Raz Plus. Raz Plus is the teacher management tool, and it lets you push out resources digitally to students, and Raz Kids is the student portal. You should know, though, that Raz Plus also has lots of instructional materials for face-to-face learning. It's not just for remote learning. So most people, I think, know Learning A to Z from the old subscription that individual teachers used to purchase or the PTA used to purchase, which let you print out those hard copy leveled books. So you do still have access to all of that, but they have a lot more. They have curriculum, lesson plans, assessments, in addition to the print books and the digital, the ebooks. Questions on the difference? So I will use Raz Plus mostly, unless I'm talking about the kid view, in which case I'll hopefully remember to talk about Raz Kids instead. So this is just a getting started session. We're going to talk about how you get set up as a teacher, and that'll be like the first half. And as I said, I'll do some demo and then give you a chance to go off and try it on your own. The second half will be mostly looking at the student view. I think it's really frustrating as teachers when we can't create test students. So unlike Seesaw, there is no ability because we're rostering through ClassLink. It's automatically happening with a connection to Rediker. You can't create a test student and log in as a student to see what the students see. So we're going to spend the second half just experiencing Raz Kids as a student. And then we'll end by talking about what we're going to cover in the next 2 sessions and some online resources if you want to keep learning. So let's talk about the teacher setup. So if you're a regular classroom teacher, which I know neither of you is, Eric has created the rosters for you, so for them. So your classroom teachers didn't have to do any rostering. Some of our fully remote teachers who have more than 36 students actually have 2 teacher accounts because they can only have 36 kids in a roster. So like Ashley Melanson has more than 36 students in her cohort C, 2nd and 3rd grade class, so she has 2 usernames. For you guys, you're going to use what's called shared rostering. And I know, Melissa, that MJ and I have already set up shared rostering for her, but that's something that I can help you with if you want. So basically, this allows the students to log in with their homeroom teacher, but you can push out assignments and see their data. So it simplifies things from the family perspective. They only have one login they need to worry about, but it does allow teachers to collaborate. And because we are syncing with Rediker through ClassLink, even though there's an add student button, we're asking that teachers not add students on their own, but instead email Eric, and he will add new students to your roster for you. So as a teacher, you're going to go to razplus.com, and that's where you will see the login button for teachers. It's called Member Sign In. And there is a button for Raz Plus in your ClassLink Launchpad as well.
Tiffany, so just to clarify, you want Eric to add new students. Are teachers allowed to share students on their own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions about the rostering? And like I said, we'll go take a look at that in a minute. So there are some settings that you have to decide on as a teacher. And you can apply settings to a whole class. You can create groups within your class, and this will be especially relevant for you, Melissa, and for you, MJ, right? So you can have MJ groups for your different reading groups, or Melissa for your different grades or your different groups that you meet with. And you can apply settings to just that group. You can also apply settings to an individual student. So again, we'll go take a look at this in a minute. There's a gear that you use to change settings for the whole class. And then you can click on a student's name to change the settings for just that one student. One of the big ones that you will want to think about as a teacher is incentives and rewards. And for you guys, you'll have to talk to the classroom teachers and figure out what they're doing. Some teachers love these kind of incentive programs. Some teachers hate them. But basically, the kids can earn stars as they complete activities, and then they can trade in their stars to, you know, change their avatar, change their background, that kind of thing. The other big decision that teachers really as grade level teams need to make is what portal are they going to use for the student? And that's just a fancy word for the interface. So they basically have a primary portal, which again, I'll show you in a minute, that they say is for K2, and they have an intermediate portal that's for 3 through 5. I really think that the primary portal is more appropriate for 3rd grade. But, you know, again, that's I think a team decision, but that's something the teacher can control. And obviously the primary portal is brighter colors, bigger buttons, less clutter on the interface. And anytime you see those underlined words, it's a link, and if you click, it will take you to more information from Raz Plus about that particular feature. Questions on any of these settings? All right, the big one, the most important setting you have to talk with classroom teachers about is the reading level. So some grade level teams are choosing to take their DIBELS scores or other assessment data and choose the reading level that the student will start at. Some grade level teams are choosing to use Raz Plus's, Raz Kids built-in reading placement tool. And again, in a minute when I show you the student view, I'll show you what that reading placement tool looks like. And you can decide if you think it's accurate or not. I feel like both of you would know better than I would about that. They do have their own leveling system. And if you click on that link to the right, it will talk more about their leveling system. And they do have a correlation chart where you can see how their, like what is a U on learning A to Z, what is that in Fontes and Pinnell, for example. Once you have set a student's reading level or they've completed the reading placement tool in Raz Kids, then in their reading room, they'll have books that are at their level. But there are other resources that are available to them in the reading room. And so you as the teacher, either the special education, reading, or classroom teacher, can decide which resources are going to appear in the student's reading room other than their level books. So for example, graphic novels, right? Are you going to give kids access to graphic novels? And we'll take a look at that in a minute. The other one is what's the level at which kids aren't required to listen to the book before they read it on their own. So you can say anybody over an M shouldn't be forced to listen to the book anymore. The last big decision you have to make as you're setting up Raz Plus for your students is, are you going to give parents access? I know the 2nd grade at Westminster had decided no, they weren't ready to give parents access. They had a parent request access, but they weren't sure how accurate the reading level that Raz Plus was setting for the child was. And so they were afraid that some parents would get upset if they thought the reading level was too low or too high. So for now, they have not entered parent email addresses. And they did have one parent who requested access. So the parents have a button that they can click on. And they just explained to the parent that they were still learning this new tool and they weren't ready yet. But again, that's something that MJ and Melissa, you should probably talk to the grade level teams about.
Tiffany, what does the parent access do for the parents? What does it allow them to do?
It shows them what books, what level, quiz results, things like that. So it's data about their child.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions about parent access? All right, so let's actually go take a look at what these settings and rosters look like in Raz Plus. So I'm already signed in. If I weren't, I would have a blue member sign in button up here. And when you are setting up, getting started, you're always going to start by going to manage students. And we'll start by looking at the roster. So again, because I'm not in Rediker and I don't have real students, I just have some fake student accounts included here. So I only have 3 students in my class. I have, to simplify matters for me as I'm demoing, given my students all the same password, but your students will have their password already set by them. When Eric rosters, he's importing their AWRSD Google password. So please don't change the passwords. And again, we're really trying to streamline and make things simpler for families. We only want them to have one password to remember. You can see over here on the right side is where you choose the student portal. And again, I've intentionally put 2 of my students in primary at one and one at intermediate. In a little bit, when I demo the student view, you'll be able to see the difference between them. But this is a simple pop-up, right, that I can switch. So if you feel like there's a 4th grader who really needs the primary portal, you can change it just for that one student. Here's my gear. We were talking earlier about changing settings for the whole class. So if I click on that gear, I have some settings for me. It will send you reports about what the students are doing in Raz Kids. And these are some that, again, you can set for whole class or for individual student. This is that customizing. So how many levels above and below their assigned reading level are you going to allow students to read at? So in their reading room, they're going to have books at their reading level, but the default is a little above and a little below as well. But you can change that as the teacher. And this is the one where you set the mandatory listening level. So if a child is anywhere from AA to Z2 right now, they have to listen to the book first, but I can use the slider to change that. Constructed response, I don't think anybody is using this yet. Basically, where the student gets to listen, read, and then do a quiz for each book, you can flip this switch to have them answer an open-ended response question. But again, the teacher would have to go in and manually grade that. Most people leave that off. So notice that if I click on an individual student's name, right, I get a little bit of data about that student. Now, I haven't done much with my test student account, so there's not a lot of data to look at. But here is where I would go to change settings for that individual student. And again, the reading room is the big one. This is where I think most of the students will spend their time. So what are you going to give them access to? In addition to their level books, a little above, a little below, you decide how much, right? So they have some series, right? So for example, if it's a primary student, you're probably going to uncheck, right, some of these.
I'm sorry, Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just could we back up for a second? So I know exactly where you are. I'm looking at my student, and I clicked overview, and I see all the last 5 books that the student read, and then I clicked Raz Plus, and then did you click on reading room settings? Is that what you clicked
Yes.
on together? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Yeah. And so you can see a lot of these are really for older students, and then some are for younger students, right? So if it's a 4th grade student, you're probably going to uncheck nursery rhymes and some of the early reading choices. So I find this one is the big one that a lot of people miss because it's kind of hard to get to. But I think that customization is important. And I'm just clicking on roster to go back to my full list. The other one that a lot of teachers end up using, and again, especially you guys, because of your role, is the groups. So let's say I wanted to put 2 or 3 students in a group together. I just click on the little box next to their names, and then I click on the pencil. And if I don't have any groups, it will ask me to create a group.
Groups.
And then I just do add. If I'm done, I click away, and you can see now it tells me what group I've put that student in. I haven't tried putting students in more than one group. I don't know. Jenna or Lori, do you guys know if you can put students in more than one group?
Yes, you can. I think I remember that.
Yep.
Okay.
I think you can.
And the other way that I can get in, right, and edit students is if you hover over the row where that student is, I get the little pencil. Now, this is a student where the parent, i.e. Jenna, has requested access. So we just wanted you to see what that looks like. Right, so you can see there was the little red circle with the exclamation mark next to that student's name in the roster. And so this is where I would go to approve or deny. Now, if the student's parent didn't request access, but I wanted to invite the parent, I could just enter their email address, and I'm trying to remember where that is. So maybe, whoop. Oh, there it is. So did you see how I got there? I clicked on the student's name, but then I did have to go to the pencil, and there's a parent access tab there. So if teachers want to give parents access, they do have to go either enter the email address manually. There is no way to import that. Or they can, if the parent requests, then it automatically inserts that email address and asks you if you want to approve it or not. All right, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to go to the tab where you have Raz Plus and just poke around. I'm going to stay on, obviously, and I will take questions. Kathy, do you want to sign in as me just so you can take a look around?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay, I'm going to put my username and password in the chat window.
Okay.
I have to go look up my password because it's saved on my computer and I don't remember it.
I don't ever remember my passwords. There's too many, and when they time out, I'm like, oh, I just remembered that password, and it times out. Oh.
Okay, found it.
Thank you.
So Kathy, one thing that might be confusing to teachers is this is one of the tools that does not use their Google account login.
Okay.
So Raz has its own special username and password that it has assigned to teachers. And if they should have gotten an email with that login information, but we have a list that we can look them up if they can't find the email or didn't get it.
Okay, sounds good.
So Tiffany, I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm looking at a student and it did say the parent wants access, and I'm not touching that unless I speak to the classroom teacher. I want to discuss this with her. But while looking at his last 5 reads, we have an F, a G, then a V, and then an F and a G. So in my opinion, I mean, if a parent doesn't have access yet, I don't understand how did the student get access to level V?
So check the settings, right? Are they, how many up and down below their assigned reading level are they allowed to go?
Okay.
And remember, not all the resources in the reading room are leveled.
Okay.
So that's some of those other types of materials that you have to check and uncheck.
There we are.
But if you think the settings are correct and he or she is still getting access to materials that you don't think they should, you can just give me the student name and I can go in and take a look and talk to Raz Plus tech support too.
Okay, I'm still just trying to navigate around here.
I know, I'm still learning too. It's a lot. The interface has got a lot going on.
Tiffany, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I on my own site, I had created a test child, and I had done this a while ago when I was playing with it, and it says, okay, well, you haven't logged in 63 days or something, which, like I said, I created a while ago. Where do I go if I was a child to access that? Or is that what you're going to do next?
That's what we're going to do next. If people are ready, we can move on to that.
Okay.
I was going to make one note about the incentives. That doesn't have to be an all or nothing option for your students. You can decide as a teacher to turn it off maybe during the day and then turn it on like Friday afternoons or whatever you decide as a teacher. You can go back and you can always change that and toggle it.
Good point. Thanks, Jenna. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen again. So I want to show you a couple of slides about the student view, but then we're going to spend most of the rest of our time just in Raz Kids logged in as students. So I did create a guide to logging in for teachers that they can post to their Seesaw or Google Classrooms. This is what it looks like. It's just a one-slide Google slide deck. But there has been a little bit of confusion about people with iPads, families with iPads. There is a Raz Kids app, but you don't need it. You can just use Safari and access the web version of Raz Kids, and it works fine. So these directions are set up to just follow the link and go to Safari and use the web-based version. Obviously, if families prefer the app because they think it's easier to find for the kid just to tap on the icon in the iPad, that works too. The big thing is that the first time they go in, they do have to enter the teacher's username. So the expectation is that a teacher would fill in what their username is on this Google slide before they posted it to Seesaw or Classroom. And again, they're not something that a teacher can choose. It's assigned by Raz Plus. So mine is T Davis 304 because apparently there are a lot of T Davises who use Raz Plus, right? But it does remember it after the first time. So the kids only have to do that the first time they go in. After that, it will remember it. There is an option to change teacher if you have kids who are sharing a device. So they're not stuck on the one that they first choose. And you can see what it does then is it shows the list of students who are in that class. In addition to the username, it has a little shape. So for the younger kids who maybe don't recognize their name yet, they can just learn their shape. And then they do have to enter their school Google account password to sign in. The big thing that's a little confusing is that you can get to, students can log in by going to just razplus.com, which is where teachers go, but it's better to go to kidsaToZ.com, which is where the link takes them, because it's a much cleaner interface, and it just has a big box where they enter the teacher username. So, and again, I'll show you that in a minute. So there's a kid login button on razplus.com, but it's better to go to kidsaToZ.com. I think it's simpler for the kids. So that's where that link that's in the directions takes them. So this is what the primary portal looks like. Has a space theme. And not everything will come up the first time a child signs in. So in other words, if a teacher has not assigned a book yet, my assignments won't appear. If a teacher has not assigned an assessment, flight check won't appear. If they haven't ever been in before and been diagnosed with a reading level, level up won't appear. So for a lot of kids, when they first sign in, all they'll see is the reading room. So my assignments is where teacher assigned books are stored and kids access them. Reading room is like your free choice reading. And again, for most of those books, and the teacher can control this, the kid can listen to the book, read it independently, and then take a quiz. And the teacher can check and uncheck which of those they want the child to do. Flight check is where students go to take assessments. If a teacher has assigned an assessment, that's the first thing they'll see when they sign in. They won't actually get to this interface at all. And I'll demo that in just a minute. Level up, I don't think anybody's using this much yet. That's what if kids independently want to try to progress to the next reading level, they can listen, read a book, take a quiz. The leveling up happens automatically. If at a certain point, if on their my assignment in reading room, they're doing well, right, it will take them to the next level. That's if the kid wants to try to level up before the program thinks they're ready. This is what the intermediate portal looks like. I'm not crazy about it. Most of the screen real estate here is taken up by like data, like how many books have I read, how many quizzes have I taken. Here's where you can spend some of your stars to change your background or change your avatar. They have to actually go to the reading menu to get to the reading room. It does show them recent assignments right underneath all their stats. But if they want to just go to the reading room, they have to know to click or tap on reading, and a drop-down list will appear. Because it's an intermediate portal, they don't have the cutesy names, so instead of flight check, assessments are just called assessments. Oop. All right, so questions on the student portals before we go demo. Everybody's quiet. Okay, so let's go ahead. This is what kidsaToZ.com looks like. I'm going to just show you really quick what Raz Plus looks like. So Raz Plus just has a lot of advertising on it, right? So you can see this green button is a place where kids could log in, but I think it's a little hard to find for them. So I prefer to send them here. And then they would just type in their teacher's username. Again, the one that was assigned by Raz Plus. Click on go. And they would see the list of students. Again, my class list is pretty small because it's just a test class. And we're just gonna, I have different settings for these different student accounts. So I'm just gonna show you what they look like. So let's go in as JRB test first. So again, they do have to enter their password. So this is the portal for a student who has an assignment from the teacher, right? So you can see they have my assignments. And they also have an assessment from the teacher. So that's why those two are showing up. If they go to the reading room, right, it shows their reading level here. And then it has some suggested books at their reading level. And they can see more choices. Those leveled books are also available by topic. Now this other stuff to the right, those are the other resources that aren't leveled, right? And those are when you customize the reading room, you decide what's going to show up as a choice for the student. Let's do Don't Wake the Mummy. So you can see these are the choices for most of the books. Again, depending on what the teacher has selected for settings, but they can listen to the book, they can read the book, and after they've read it, only after they've read it and listen to it, depending on your settings, can they take the quiz. So let's just take a look at what listen looks like. I don't think you guys can hear it because I have my AirPods on, but you get the idea, right? So it's automatically going through the book. It's highlighting as it goes. They can pause it or restart it. I want to show you that it does bookmark where I was, right? And again, depending on the settings, right, you can force them to listen to it before they're allowed to read it on their own. Here's what it looks like when they're reading on their own. They have to click on the arrow to go from page to page. Notice they do have some tools available to them up here. I think the most commonly used ones are the highlighters. and the stickers. So, you know, put a star by the words you don't understand, or put a star by the names of the main characters. They can add sticky notes. They get back to them up there. Once they've actually read the book, then they can take the quiz. So you'll notice the quiz is still not lit up for me. It knows that I haven't actually read the book yet. So it's not going to let me take the quiz until I actually read the book. This is because the incentive system is on, so it's showing the child how many stars they're going to earn for completing those activities. So that's the reading room. I want to show you what an assignment looks like. So I was pretending that I was a teacher who was doing, you know, kind of a winter themed unit. So I assigned 2 wintry books. And again, I've got those same choices because I, as a teacher, checked them off when I made the assignment. Listen, read, and quiz. Same thing for this one. And the quiz is always grayed out until you've actually read the book. Now, I just randomly chose an assignment. So this is an example of, it always asks if you have time to finish it. This is just an example of, again, the kinds of assessments, which we'll talk more about in the 3rd session. Make here about our blah, 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 blah. So, but I think the ability to record kids is really powerful. So notice I did earn my stars, even though I didn't put much effort into that, which again is always a flaw with these incentive systems. But you as the teacher would then listen to the recording and notice that now my assessments is gone because I don't have any assessments to do. There are no new assessments assigned by the teacher that I have not completed. All right, this is what level up looks like. So again, it's books that are right, it's showing you what you have to complete to get from level U to level V. And this one is one that I had already read. So notice that it's green and checked off. So I didn't listen to it, but I did read it and do the quiz, and I scored well enough on the quiz that I've done that, and that counts. That's why I have a little bit of light blue in my dark blue bar showing me what I need to do to progress from level U to level V. Questions on the primary portal or any of the activities students complete?
Tiffany, I know you mentioned about having the kids record themselves, which I think is a really fabulous tool. I'm just wondering, and maybe I missed it. Where do you go in order to have, like, if I was a child, where would I go to record myself? And then if I was wanting to check it, how would I do that as a staff person?
So we'll talk more about the checking it as a staff person in the later sessions, but basically you have as a teacher something called your basket. And any assignments that students have turned in are in your basket. You go to your basket and you can listen.
Okay, thank you.
So to record themselves, you could see that it asked me to give access to the microphone on my device. And after that, it just starts recording. So there are assessments where you can record kids saying letters of the alphabet for the really young ones. There are assessments when kids can record themselves saying sight words. There are assessments where you can record kids reading a passage. There are assessments where a kid can record themselves reading a book.
Wow.
So there are lots of choices. It's got a fairly robust assessment component. And I know Corey L'Italian has been having her kids read books, and she's been listening to them. She's the only person I know of so far who's used that component. Yes, Jenna.
Yeah, it's also built into the reading room books. So when the student goes to read, and maybe Tiffany can open one up.
We'll do Dawn of the Donut because that was a fun one.
When you go in to read, at the top, there is a little microphone, but the student has to initiate that recording. An assessment will start automatically. They don't have a choice. But if they want to record themselves and send it to their teacher, they have that choice to do it.
Oh, fabulous.
Oh, never mind. That was my comment.
So they can start, pause, stop, and then what I think is powerful is they can listen back to it.
Yeah.
They can hear themselves reading.
And it's a pretty sensitive recording. I've done it with my son, and I'll help him. He's in first grade. I'll help him kind of sound a word out, and the teacher can hear me doing that, with him. So you'll know how much coaching the kids have too when they're doing their recordings.
Like Seesaw.
Yeah.
Yes.
I listened to some of them and it's absolutely hysterical. You can hear the mother or the whoever in the background going, yes, say that. It's just cute.
Great question. Other questions? All right, I want to log out and go in as a student who's in the intermediate portal, just so you can see what that looks like. So this is the intermediate portal. Again, here's my avatar, which I can use my stars to customize. But I have to go up to reading, and you can see this student, I as the teacher have not pushed out any assignments or any assessments. So the only two choices they have are reading room and leveled up. After that, it looks very similar to the primary interface, right? It's just that initial screen that's really different. So this is what the incentive system looks like, just if you want to see it. So it's very similar to, I don't know if any of you guys were here back in the day, Freckle let the kids earn coins and they could spend them to customize their avatar. It's the same idea. Right, I can put pants on my guy or legs or, yeah. All right, I want to sign in as one last student. So for these two students, I, as the teacher, had gone in and assigned their reading level. For elementary DLC, I did not. So if a grade level team is decided not to assign reading levels, this is what the kids will see when they first sign in. So I don't think you can hear it because I have my AirPods in, but my little avatar is reading the directions to me. So in other words, they can't do anything until they go through the reading placement tool. And this is what the reading placement tool looks like. It's a passage to read on the left and multiple choice questions on the right. And it doesn't read to them, right? So, right, we'll just answer A on everything and see how we do. So it has no idea what level I'm at. So that's where it starts, kids. And no matter how they do, right, they get some positive reinforcement. So once they finish the reading placement tool, they can go read and it takes them to the reading room. And so you can see, because I wasn't trying at all, I'm pretty low. And when they go back to reading, again, they just have the reading room and level up because the teacher hasn't made it in assignments or assessments, hasn't pushed those out to the student. So that is the student view. Questions?
You're just that good, Tiffany. You're just that good. No questions.
Yep, I blew you away with my brilliance. So the last couple of slides in the slide deck talk about next steps. So slide number 15, and I don't know, Kathy, if you got the slide deck, so I will put the URL back in the chat window. I don't know if you were here when we shared that.
No.
But the last two slides are about our next two sessions. So in session 2, we're going to talk about all the instructional tools that are available. So Melissa, you were talking about like assigning a student to read, to record themselves reading. We'll talk about that, but we'll also talk about just an overview of all the instructional materials that are in Raz Plus. I was surprised by how much is there. I mean, they actually have a whole phonics curriculum if you want it. And again, it's not just for remote virtual learning. So there are materials you can print, there are materials you can project in the classroom as well as virtually, right? And then there are the books and assessments that you can digitally assign. And then the last session will be on assessment. So they do have this whole section of the program on running records. And then they have reports like all these online tools do where you can get a lot of data about kids. So we'll focus on those. They also have a wealth of professional development resources on their website. And that's what the last slide gives you, is links to some of their webinars, some of their handouts. They have really great getting started page that has short targeted video tutorials that are really good. So don't forget to fill out the form. The link is on the first slide if you want PDP, point contact hour, for this.